play. And another foul on Ward. His third for setting a screen.
Because of physical play, although Jordan Taylor just got caught with a moving screen.
Pick and roll. And a foul, offensive foul coming up. Ken Valentine standing right there.
Izzo dying for a moving screen.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another edition of the Moving Screen Podcast. I'm Brendan Quinn of The Athletic here with Dylan Burkhart, umhoops.com. This is our second recording this week. The first one that we realized was a moot point about midway through. We trashed that.
I would say about 80% through.
That was about 80%. That's going to be on the when we release the hits, our greatest hits. That's going to be the secret track at the end. No one's going to... You got
to skip a few blank tracks.
So
you get to hear me talk about Ed Cooley for 30 minutes.
So here we are. Juwan Howard is the new head coach of the Michigan Wolverines. Official 5-year deal. You guys know all the details now. How it went down, when it went down. I'm still hoping to, at some point, do some kind of more background type reporting on the actual story of, the meetings and all that stuff. But right now, it's pretty clear. Mutual interest, both sides. I think Juwan Howard was at the top of Ward Manuel's list from the get-go. Yes, I know that they interviewed Ed Cooley beforehand, and then we'll get into that. But Juwan Howard was very much at the forefront of this conversation. And from everything that I've been told, gathered, and even seen elsewhere, the second this job was available, Juwan Howard was interested. And two sides came to an agreement, $2 million a year to start. That'll escalate up, and very interesting on all fronts. Dylan, you're instant. Give me the hottest take that you got in the bag, man.
John Beilein to Juwan Howard in about a week and a half is a pretty wild transition. You're going to see a completely different basketball program basically overnight. And
top to bottom.
I don't think there's any way to sugarcoat it. It's a huge gamble. I mean, we had no idea really what Juwan Howard is going to do. There's a lot of potential upside, but this is a gamble, and this is a risk that Michigan is taking, and I think it's the right time to take the gamble, but we're going to have to see. I mean, we don't know. I'm usually pretty confident in my opinions about if someone's a good basketball coach, a bad basketball coach. I have no idea. And that is a scary time, but it also, I guess, can be an exciting time.
It seems to me like there's an extremely high level of risk reward here. Like, if we wanted to be able to fast forward 3 years out and paint a picture of this as a total train wreck, or this as like, holy shit, they brought back, they figured out a way to reunite their past with their present, and this magnetic guy who ended up being the piece that brought everything together, advanced the program, hired the right guys, brought in recruits that Michigan has not seen since his own era, and they're a national championship contender. Like, I think both are plausible. The answer's probably somewhere in the middle, most likely, but both are plausible.
Yeah, I think what I wrote was in about 3 years we'll know whether Ward Manuel got caught chasing the shiny object or he found the perfect hire and made the right move. I mean, I don't really see Juwan Howard just being average for 3 years. Or 4 years, or however long. It doesn't really seem like a situation where you're just going to kind of get normal. It's going to be a roller coaster. It's going to have some extremes, and it's going to either really work or maybe not work so much. I mean, it could bust pretty easily, but you just say that because you don't know. I mean, that's just where we're at right now, I guess.
I agree with that to an extent. The thing that I don't quite agree with would be the idea of chasing the shiny object because, honestly, when it comes to the timing of this job search, when it comes to really the cards that Michigan was dealt, I'm not really sure. Like, it's not like there was a multitude of amazing options out there and they were just like, we're going after Juwan Howard. We're going to go after this kind of wild card-ish candidate. If this were 5 weeks ago that Beeline took an offer from the Cavs and Nate Oates were on the table, Fred Hoiberg hadn't gone to Nebraska yet, and it was a completely different landscape. Certain guys, Chris Beard hadn't signed a monster extension. All these things, right? This was terrible timing for Ward Manuel. That is, without a doubt. It's not even making excuses. It is just the fact of the matter. And when you look at the options here, the fact that the 3 other candidates who actually interviewed for the job were Sadi Washington, Luke Yaklich, Ed Cooley. No offense to those guys, but it's not like Juwan Howard was beating out, highly established candidates who would have gotten huge deals and been, big time splash hires. That those options weren't there.
You're also paying a coach.
I think Juwan Howard was the only splash Howard or splash hire available.
You're also paying a coach $2 million and didn't pay a buyout, so you got off paying not a lot of money, which makes me think maybe you didn't want to go after spending a lot of money, right? Like, if you want to make a splash hire, you got to spend splash money, and no buyout and a $2 million deal is saving money on the bottom line, right? You got to say that.
I would and I wouldn't because
my guy Ed Cooley was going to get $6 million a year, right?
per reports. I would say yes and no, and I'd say yes and no because Ed Cooley would have gotten
3.5.
3. There's no way he'd have gotten 3.5. I think that sounds like a lot. What do you think he's making at Providence?
He's about to be making 3
at Providence. That's confirmed.
Yeah, there was some sort of something to do with his extension, and the language was that it was rising, but he would be at that level, I believe.
I was thinking 3 tops. So okay, say 3.5. Juwan Howard was making less than $1 million at.
Yeah, I get that you don't have to pay
been a head
Juwan
coach.
Howard.
Like, I don't think you just give Juwan Howard $4 million a year just because, Now, if he goes and makes the NCAA tournament next year and proves it, he's never been a head coach. I don't know how you just throw a Brinks truck at him. But to your point of the splash hire and spending money, right? Okay, screw it. Gonna go after Chris Mack and pay his whatever 8-figure buyout and give him $5-6 million a year. Does he even still say yes? I don't know.
I don't know. My point is this:
I don't know how much you throw it.
If you said I'm going to spend $5 or $6 million on a head coach, so whatever, it's $5 million. I think that you could probably get someone to say yes to that if you tried hard. But I don't think that was the plan.
Who are the names?
I mean, that's neither here.
What?
I get
no, that's not,
I'm not
neither here nor there. I think that's
a
real question. I don't think
the timing impacted that. I don't think Nate Oates would have got the job.
Do.
Fred Hoiberg, all right, I'll buy that. I watched his press conference today. I'm all in on Nebraska ball. Let's go.
But guys sign extensions in April and May. Guys, their buyouts are being increased in April and May. And when it comes to the caliber of coach that's worth giving 5, 6, whatever million to, that's a small group of coaches. And how many of those guys are willing to leave the established job that they have to come to Michigan? It's easy to be they should have just hired a high caliber coach. But okay, who? And for how much?
No. I agree with everything you're saying. My point is that I don't think it has so much to do with timing. I think if John Beilein left on April 1st, do you think Michigan would pay someone more or less than John Beilein made last year?
I think they'd be in play for Chris Beard right off the bat.
Well, if Chris Beard was ever in play, He's the guy I would say was 100% worth paying, however much you could pay him.
Well, and if it were April 1st, they could have.
Maybe. I don't know. I get the sense that was never going to happen either if it was on April 1st. I don't
necessarily think Chris Beard would have been a great hire, or not Chris Beard. Nate Oates would have necessarily been a great hire, but they could have been to play for him.
Yeah, I don't think Nate Oates was ever would have been the move on any day. But
I don't disagree with you on that. But in terms of the fan perception, in terms of the perception of the hire, he would have been in play, right?
Sure, that's fair. Let's get into the actual hire.
I want to talk about this for the next hour, actually. No, I'm kidding.
Just about the timing of the search. People are done with the search. We can put the search to bed.
All right, Juwan Howard, head coach, Michigan. Thoughts?
I think it brings a lot of excitement. I'm really curious to see how that excitement manifests itself. And especially in recruiting. He's going to have to go out and recruit and try to sign a lot of players in the 2019 class for the next season, but really the 2020 class will kind of be his make or break, and a lot of those kids are going to sign before Juwan Howard's ever coached a college basketball game, or right around when he starts coaching, right? I mean, those will be done. That November signing period is right there, and he's going to need to be able to create some buzz and go out and land some kids. And I don't know. It's going to be really easy to say, oh, well, his kids play with so-and-so on Mac Urban Fire. You got Adam Miller. He's a 5-star guard. Scotty Barnes. Like, can you plays with his kids in high school? Can you get these kids? Like, is that a real thing? I'm just really curious to see what this looks like. What kind of people is he going after? And we have no idea what to expect right now.
Right. And is this a mass, like, when you're covering Michigan, or, from the fan side, following Michigan, that was a system-driven program that went after certain players to fill certain roles and a certain level of academics, a certain, there was everything. Everything was included. This is going to be completely different, I think. I do, in part, wonder, is this a mass talent accumulation type situation, right? Best players, bring them in, figure it out. Could very well be that. We don't even know what kind of offense Michigan's going to be running.
We don't know any system.
We have no idea of anything. So, what? All right, let's start here. How about this? What do you think? It is day one, literally. What do you think is the most important thing for Juwan Howard and his agenda to get started on right now?
Day one, he needs to get a staff in place. Yes. That's the first step, right? Mm-hmm. And he needs to get a staff that I guess he needs a plan first of what he wants his staff to do, but then he needs a staff that gets that and can help him make that plan work. That includes a plan of how you want to play on offense, how you want to play on defense, and then what kind of players and people you want to recruit.
What do you think
starting from step one?
What do you think this staff will look like ultimately? When we're talking, we'll probably record a pod next week when I'm back from Philly. What do you think it looks like?
I think you need a former head coach as your main assistant. I think you need one assistant from the current Michigan staff. Up for debate who that might be. And then I think you'll probably get a third assistant with some kind of ties to Howard in some other regard. I don't know. I would say I'd worry if multiple people on the staff are NBA type of coaches rather than college coaches. I think that would be a big red flag.
Likewise.
That's kind of where I fall on the staff. I don't think it would be a problem to bring two assistants over, but I don't know that that's a prudent. I don't know if that's really how it would go down.
Yeah. So let's start with the current staff. Everyone's still under contract. They're on rolling month-to-month deals, basically. They kind of got left out in a bit of a cold wind here on this whole deal because their last contracts expired. All were told that they'd be signing new deals with raises. Those deals were never signed. John Beeline takes a new deal. They are now kind of sitting there. And if those other deals had been signed, they would have been guaranteed for the year, and those would have been payouts, which would have been probably a much softer landing for guys that kind of got blindsided here. So, instead, all three are now in limbo, very much so. And Luke Yaklich has probably the most significant option here there is interest from Texas. I talked to someone that I know inside the Texas athletic department today, and that interest is still very much there. Luke was kind of given the leeway of, look, you got a lot to figure out at Michigan right now. He interviewed for the head job. That was his top priority, was to try to get the head job at Michigan, of course. Did not happen, obviously, but Texas gave him that leeway. So I'm going to assume something's going to happen very quickly here in terms of potentially an offer from Texas to Luke Yaklich. Does he take that? I have no idea. But I think that will be the case. I would expect that to be the most likely thing to happen here. I don't think John Beeline's taking anyone from this staff and putting them into assistant roles in his staff at Cleveland. Is Juwan Howard going to take two of these guys? That seems like a big ask, right? Do you agree?
I do agree. Maybe the timing, I don't know. It depends on what Juwan Howard envisions for his staff, but I would think that if I was just hired as a head coach somewhere, I would want to hire people that I'm hiring that I like more than that we're there. And I get that the transition's important, but that's just, I think anyone that comes to a new job probably is more likely to do that.
The biggest question for me, when it comes to what is realistic for the current guys on the staff, is what does Juwan Howard want to do with the offense? Because does he have it in mind where he's going to hire a former head coach? That's pretty much without a doubt. I think I've talked to actual coaches who he talked to within the last couple of days when he was gathering information on culturally, what it's like to run a college basketball program, what should he be ready for, so on and so forth. Like, that's happening, that there will be an associate. I don't know if it'll be the title of an associate head coach. I would think so, though. Does he want someone like that to also be the guy who runs the offense, right? That's my question. Is the ex-assistant or is the ex-head coach someone who is there to be his conciliary, kind of just his guy, in-game stuff a lot, right? Substitutions, timeouts, inbounds, all those things. Or does he want someone who is actually spearheading, you're the offensive coach? You know what I'm saying? Right, exactly.
Yeah, the scheme, the system, like what Luke did for the defense last year.
Right, because if you're not looking for that, you could make a very good case. Juwan Howard coached the defense for the Heat, right? Now, correct. I don't think he's a defensive guy. I was actually talking to Duncan Robinson earlier today, who plays for the Heat, obviously, and something that he mentioned was that he thought Juwan Howard coached the defense because the Heat needed Juwan Howard to coach the defense.
Interesting.
So the whole defensive coordinator thing, it might have been more so need versus skill set, right? Like Juwan Howard wanting to be, I'm the defensive guy. I don't know if it was that. I think it might have just been what they asked him to do. So if Juwan Howard wants to can coach the defense and wants to be the defensive guy, and then you bring in a associate head coach to kind of be the veteran guy, you could make a good case if the offense is up for grabs to have Sadie Washington and DeAndre Haynes coach the offense. They run John Beeline's offense. They know it. They know the guys. They coach the guards. Like I'm just spitballing here.
That's I have two questions for this.
My point is this is the only scenario where I see two assistants staying on the staff. I think it's much more likely that it's one assistant. Go ahead.
First question: Sadie Washington and DeAndre Haynes together really know John Beilein's offense well enough to, quote unquote, run it for the team?
DeAndre Haynes called the plays during the games last year. That's a fact.
He called the plays during the game. What about when they're coming back on Beilein's side? Beilein's not calling things out ever.
No, I mean, I'm not saying. Of course, it's John Beilein's thing. I'm saying
coached
Dre,
under John Beilein for 2 years.
I'm just saying principles, what they run. Those guys know what they run. And like Michigan stuff, yeah, it's complicated. They're also not building rocket ships over there.
All right, second question. Can you think of any head coach who isn't responsible for his own damn offense? I mean, if you're the head coach, it's your offense. It's not.
I don't disagree.
It's like even the Yaklit situation with Beilein was unique, and it's not like you just bring someone in to run their offense, and you're I'm not really worried about the offense. You're the damn head coach. You're worried about the offense.
I hear you.
Juwan Howard's not just going to say, you guys just handle that shit. Like,
I don't disagree. I'm talking about the current staff and who could be retained and in what scenarios. That's the only way I see two retained. Most likely, one is retained in large part to bridge the gap for the roster and have roster retention for the guys that they want to keep.
Yeah, the bigger reason to retain staff members is recruiting, player retention, and maybe like a positional need, right? Like, Juwan Howard will probably focus on the bigs, you would think.
Yep.
But you basically have an assistant usually that works with the guards, works with the wings, works with the bigs, right?
Yeah.
DeAndre worked with the guards last year. Sadie worked with the bigs. I believe Sadie worked with guards previously at Oakland, though, so I don't think
he did.
That's sort of a need-based thing like you talked about with Howard at Miami, right? I don't think he's, by trade, a big man-only coach.
Right.
So
what I think is far more likely is that this is the end of what we know of the two-guard offense and John Beilein's offense at Michigan. I think Michigan switches to a NBA-style, very ball screen heavy, but in a different way than what maybe Michigan fans are used to. A lot less off-ball stuff. I think a lot more NBA style of you are putting guys in position to create one mismatch and then looking to exploit that mismatch. That's what they do in the NBA. That's what I would guess Juwan Howard's going to try to bring to Michigan. What do you think?
I would say, you say NBA style, but I would say you probably start at kind of I don't expect it to be an overly complicated offense. I think it'll probably be pretty straightforward. Run it like some kind of base NBA sets. I guess my two questions are, at what tempo do they play at? Michigan obviously played very methodical under Beilein, and a lot of his two-guard offense, there's a lot of kind of dummy action built in, right? So you're doing a lot of like action and off-ball action before you get into the set, and that honestly kind of become a bit of a drag. It's actually one of the things as the shot clock went down, I'm curious to see how Beilein adjusts in Cleveland, but that's neither here nor there, I guess. He actually talked about that in his presser, but
did he mention the shot clock?
Yeah, I mean
that's awesome.
So I expect the offense to feel a bit more simple to start, and then I guess we'll just kind of see what direction it goes in. But I'm really curious about the tempo, and the Heat weren't necessarily known for their offense in the era after LeBron. I actually read an article about Eric Spoelstra was interviewing, I guess, some Division II coach about who has the best offense ever in college basketball or something, and was getting ways to try to improve it. And I guess I would say would give you hope for Howard coaching offense is that I think the NBA is really open to new ideas and open to understanding the value of a good shot, bad shot. Those are kind of understood across the league at this point. So that probably means that he'll try to accomplish some of those things, but you don't know. I mean, he's never ran an offense before.
Would they have been better off with Ed Cooley's flex offense?
No. I'm so thankful to not have to write about the flex offense. Oh, good grief. I was having nightmares about the flex offense.
Okay, so the current. Did you want to get into roster? Or you want to talk more about Juwan's potential coaching? We have no idea what the hell this is going to look like.
We really don't. And for about the next 6 months, we're just going to make a bunch of shit up because we literally have no idea what he's going to do. He's going to say some stuff in his press conference
for the moving screen. Yes,
everyone though and you don't know what he's saying. Like, I don't know. I guess recruiting will kind of maybe give us a little bit of a glimpse of what kind of team he's trying to build, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, I don't know. Are you going to have 2 bigs playing at the same time? Or are you going to have a 4-out? Right. There's just so many questions. I don't even know where to start with that.
I got to think Juwan would be more for the stretch it out 4.
Stretch it out 4 out?
Yeah.
Or like 2 posts?
No.
Miami was a fairly modern offense in the sense that they don't post up a lot or anything like that. So I wouldn't expect him to start bringing in a bunch of back to the basket dudes necessarily either. I don't know. We don't know.
It's going to be, man. It's going to be crazy. Just following this thing, and it's going to be a lot of tea leaves. It could be an entirely new staff, new characters, new thing, like one of the things that we talked about in the last pod, I don't know if this is the thing to get into now, but like the whole idea of Juwan Howard is getting the Weber endorsement, the Jalen Rose endorsement, the Fab Five is back and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, I'm not from Michigan. I'm not from here. I wasn't a kid in the 90s when the Fab Five were the coolest thing in the world. I thought the Fab Five. I had a Michigan shooting shirt as a young kid, like 11 years old. Fab Five.
Hold on. Can we ask
what?
Do you have a little regret that Jameer Nelson didn't get the St. Joe's job?
Why we got to get into that?
Does this make it a little sore spot?
I would have been curious to see Jameer in that job. I'm not sure it's the right move. He had 0 coaching experience. Juwan Howard did coach 6 years in the NBA as an assistant coach. Right. But
I'll let you get back to your point.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that. You're trying to get me emotional over here. But point is, yes, like, dude, the Fab Five was the jam. It was awesome. But like for me personally, having come in here 6-7 years ago, whatever, and the Fab Five's been a monstrous pain in the ass. Like, between Jalen and Weber, and it's just constantly a thing, and the program is having all this success on the floor, and somehow this group just constantly makes it about themselves, right? The whole time.
Yeah.
Like, that happened. That happened here in the very recent past. And it was a pain in the ass for Beeline. It was a pain in the ass for everyone at Michigan. And now, somehow, incredibly, the Fab Five is running the program again, for all intents and purposes. Yeah. No? It's nuts.
It's surreal to see them, like, tweeting out Juwan Howard highlights as, like, the new head coach. And if you think about everywhere this has gone, I think there's a few layers to unpack here. I've thought about this a lot more since we've recorded our Ghost Pod, so I have some better thoughts laid out. First of all, can we just talk about the endorsements? Okay. This is not about everyone's tweeting out things for their friend, and there's nothing wrong with that.
No, not at all.
But it's not like, I don't know. It's a very self-serving endorsement. I mean, Juwan is obviously very close to all these people, and that's good, and then everyone likes him. But it's not like, I don't know. I have a hard time with the Chris Webber endorsement, considering that he couldn't even bother to show up at a Michigan basketball game when he was across the street.
Ding, ding.
6 months ago.
Yes.
So that's whatever. But at the same point,
and in no way did Ward Manuel feel like, oh my God, Chris Webber gave an endorsement to Juwan. Like, that's pushing me over the edge. There's no, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
but
continue. Like, you can't say he's an influential alum of the basketball program because he hasn't spoken to the basketball program in decades.
Right.
I mean,
totally.
Come on. At the same point, whether you like it or not, the Fab Five is back and running this thing, and that just is what it is. And you can't really everything's happening. I mean, this is it, and Juwan Howard is the head coach, and the Fab Five is back, and you're going to just have to embrace that. And everything that happened after the Fab Five happened, but Michigan punished themselves plenty and did their time, suffered long after it for their own ineptitude. And now you have literally 2 head coaches in college basketball who are caught on a wiretap buying players. And they're still employed. So it's just a different era in that sense. Like, no one else is crying about that. They're just moving on. And it just, I don't know. It's just crazy that we've gotten to this point. But I think really it's crazy to think about where you were when you're hiring Tommy Amaker, when you're hiring John Beilein, you're like still, I don't know, you want to say ashamed, trying to make up for the fact that the Fab Five happened. It's just a different time now, and it's pretty staggering to see it actually take place. And honestly, as much as it's a change from what Beilein's program was about, what his program did over 12 years also kind of paved the way for it, right? Like, this doesn't work if you're trying to build a program from scratch, I don't think. And we don't know if it will work now either, but...
No, we don't. And, you know, my thing with the Fab Five is in no way should what happened in 1992, 93 rule out Juwan Howard as a candidate, because he is one of the best players in program history. He has a 19-year NBA career. He's been an NBA assistant coach for 6 years, like more than qualified to be a high major head coach right now, and to hand him the keys and say, you know what, let's see what this guy can do. End of the day, Fab Five, they took money and they were 19, 20 years old. Like, if that's really, like, that's, they weren't,
exactly.
It wasn't a drug ring running out of Michigan. It was, they weren't killing Pete. They weren't murderers or anything. Like, I don't give a shit if someone took money 25 years ago to play college basketball. My bigger thing with the Fab Five of like kind of my holdback is the modern history of just these. It's always about them. It's always about banners.
Well,
it's always about.
Guess what? In a way,
look at us, bullshit. Like, and
so
really, Juwan Howard
one of their own.
But Juwan Howard, to his credit, has been the only one who's not the only one, but to an extent, has been above the fray forever. He has not gotten into that stuff. He's not been campaigning and living in the past and wanting recognition for something that happened 25 years ago.
The only thing that can fix Jalen and C-Web is Juwan Howard. He brings them together.
Right, but my point is you don't hire a head coach in order to bring Jalen and C-Web together. If those two grown adult men can't figure out how to have a conversation and figure out whatever their issues are, that's on them.
So, the only thing they've probably agreed on in the last decade is hiring Juwan.
Maybe, yeah.
And it's going, here's a question. You probably have a good sense because you didn't, grow up in Michigan or grow up around it. Do you think the Fab Five still resonates in recruiting or whatnot?
Yes.
Do you think that's a thing? I think 100%.
100%.
I think you look at two things. You look at how popular the 30 for 30 was a few years ago. Yep. Everyone saw that. And you look at how many damn kids are named Jalen and in the top 100 for the next 3 classes. And you're like, well, maybe we're onto something here.
Yeah.
So I think, without a doubt, it resonates. And I know,
they're big. And the dads, curious, any kid's dad.
Yeah,
are you kidding
parents.
me? Yeah.
It's a thing. I'm wondering, Juwan Howard's not Penny Hardaway, though. I don't think he's he was a long-time pro, but he was never a larger-than-life pro. You agree with that?
Yes, I would agree with
Juwan
that.
Howard walks in an EYBL gym, it's not oh, that's Juwan Howard. maybe more so, but he's not like.
He's got some juice though, man. I mean, the dude's got his own Jordan endorsement. Like, he's the real deal, and I think like it's way more for the AAU coaches, the dads, the guy's older brother, right? Like, it is definitely, I think Juwan's probably a little bit more generational than Penny, and maybe even a Jerry Stackhouse. Because, like, I mean, Juwan was a boring basketball player, let's be honest. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, you watch the clip, like, the clips that they show of him are still pretty funny. He's had, like, a 15-inch vertical, and now I'm already going to ruin any hopes of access I have to Juwan right off the beat. But you get my point. Like, even Weber would
be a moving screen listener.
Weber would be different, you know? Jalen Rose would be different.
I mean, Juwan was not he was not Weber. He was not Jalen, right? Like that. Jalen was the voice. Weber was the star, right? Like it's different, but he's also probably the best equipped to be a coach at the same point, right? Like,
and he's still.
I think it was Jalen who said he was always the grown-up in the room, right?
Yes. And who was the first guy that got the $100 million contract in the NBA? First guy ever. It's Juwan Howard. How about that? Washington Bullets, yo. That was back, man. I totally forgot until I was reading all this stuff. I totally forgot that Weber and Howard played together for the Bulls. I don't know how I forgot that, but that must have been pretty crazy. No?
Yeah.
Was that like was that a huge deal around here back in the day?
I don't know. I was a kid, man.
Oh. I mean, the Bullets must have thought they had like part 2 of Wes Unseld and Elvin Hayes. That was a monster backcourt, but anyway, I digress. Sorry. What do you got next?
Front court, whatever.
It's been a long day. Week, month.
So what are what should the expectations be for Juwan? So today's day 1.
Yeah, great question.
A year from today, what are you looking at to see out of the program?
Probably some continuity of order. You know, I think Michigan's consistency under Beeline was one of its greatest assets in terms of you knew what you were going to get. It wasn't chaotic. I don't know if that's going to happen.
I don't think you're getting that.
I don't know. We'll see.
I think you're going to have a little chaos.
Well, we'll see. Expectations? I don't know. You got to win games. I mean, I can't be romper room for God's sakes, but like, you got to win games. You got to get. Here's the thing. I don't think this is going to be a program that's going to be getting a bunch of 3-stars and turning them into pros. I think you're going to have to recruit with. They're going to have to recruit like a top 10 program and win games.
Do you think he hits the ground running in recruiting, gets like multiple? Do you think he gets a McDonald's All-American?
Yes.
In the next class?
Yes.
In the 2020 class?
I'd say of one of his first 5 recruits is a McDonald's All-American.
Okay. And do you think
I would
make
say
the
like
NCAA
I have almost like zero. If I would bet large quantities of money on that.
Okay. And do you think they make the NCAA tournament this year?
No. Here's the thing.
So that'll be an interesting status update pod on a year from today.
The current roster, I think, is. Now, I mean, look, there's going to be multiple spots here, right? There's a couple spots here. Who knows what happens? Whatever. But,
3 scholarships open.
Yeah. But it's also May 22nd. It's not like there is. Nobody wrote the post today that's like, man, Michigan's going to go right after these guys who are available and could change the program. Those bodies aren't out there.
That's coming tomorrow, man.
Oh,
it's coming tomorrow.
Oh, baby. I'll be logging in on Patreon and checking my my Hoops account. Wait, do you still use Patreon or no? That's what I.
The old school people are still on Patreon.
I'm an OG.
The day oneers.
I'm an OG reader. So, Yeah, I think they're going to recruit at an extremely high level. But for this class right now, the current roster, I think, is equipped to run John Beilein's stuff. And if it's an entirely different system, it could be interesting.
I think the number one thing I would look for over the next year is adaptability. I don't think that you can just expect that day one what you try to run is going to work. And I think it'd be a big worry if you're trying to do the same thing game 25 you're doing game 1. Like, I'm really curious to see, like, I know you said consistency. I don't know if you can really afford to be consistent because you're going to have to be learning. And
I'd
I just
actually
want
like
to
to
see.
change my answer.
All right.
I want to change my answer to implementing of a actual like basketball brand style of play.
Like what you're going to hang your hat on.
Yes, right.
I'm really curious to see.
At the this time next year when you and I are talking, it should be like they have to recruit these guys to fit this system.
Yep, and I'm curious what Juwan says next Thursday when he says how he plans to play, right? And then if they match that at all or if they do something completely different. Like, you're just going from John Beilein, who had the most regimented, not that it could be free-flowing, but you knew exactly how his team was going to play, whether he was coaching the worst team in college basketball or the best team in college basketball, right? And, I don't know. We just don't know what that style of play is.
Yeah, I think there's a chance that we watch the first
game
game and say, "Oh, look at this," or it's just like, "What the hell's going on here?" Right?
Yeah, it's just. I think the most disappointing thing is that I can't break down film all summer because there's no film to look at.
Brutal. It would have been something that's ironic is that last year's team went on that summer trip to Spain, and I actually I do think it prepared them a lot for early in the season. I also think I don't know if it gassed them. I don't know, but I don't know. I thought they went the wrong direction after the start of the year. I don't know if that equates to have anything to do with Spain.
I said they were going to do that in the early podcast, if you recall.
You did.
Purdue example.
You did. But yes, this year
kind of played out that way.
They could really use that right now.
I feel like Juwan would really like to be able to coach his first 3 games in an empty gym in Spain instead of on national TV.
Yeah,
might be nice.
Yeah, and there's a million questions of not only the style, like you bring up Thursday, but okay, what's his scheduling philosophy going to be? What does his support staff look like? Does a guy like John Sanderson, is he automatically retained? Like everyone thinks the world of John. Is Beilein looking at him for the Cavs? Does he even want to go? I don't know, but how many strength coaches from the NBA does Juwan Howard know? It's 80. I don't know.
And the Heat are considered revolutionary kind of in a lot of their injury prevention, recovery training things, I believe. Not super well versed in the NBA, but I believe that's a thing. A lot of guys go there and have kind of been injury plagued and then end up a lot better. So he might have people in those regards. I guess, what you say, showing a coherent plan of what you want to do will be really telling. And I think just by being it, if you can show that, not just say it, it means that it's actually working a little bit, right? If you're just, you can tell if a team knows what they want to do.
Yeah.
And what's crazy about the roster next year is that we've really only seen, 4 kids on the team play legitimate minutes in college basketball?
Right.
You basically you're going to have the freshman class, which right now only has 1 person, and then you're going to have last year's freshman class, which is basically like a redshirt class.
Yeah,
no
I
one
mean,
really
I would
played
say
significant minutes in that group.
probably the two most excited people today. You know who they should be?
Brandon Johns.
And Colin Castleton.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll give you that.
These are two guys who obviously want to play in the NBA one day, who just got themselves an NBA big coach who is now their head guy, and yeah, certainly Brandon Johns. It'll be kind of fascinating. Do we want to get? I don't even know how to get into the roster. How about this? Here's a question for you: over under 1.5 transfers off the current roster. What are you taking?
Off.
Off.
So, am I right that is there more? Have they used up I'm curious how much of the kind of they get 8 hours of individual or whatever per week at a certain time.
I don't know.
But then that stops in the summer.
Started their summer session last Monday. I have no idea what their daily workout regimens have been.
I think if they've already started I don't know if they even do they have on court time with Juwan before? I would be curious. You know what I mean?
I don't know.
And it's not like you need to make room. I mean, you over under how many new faces on the roster from right now? 3 open scholarships. I don't see people transferring before they get to the season at this point. But I mean, I guess I would say under 1.5. I would say 1 probably, maybe.
I mean, I can guarantee you if you went through and there's been, let me pull up the numbers here. There has been, I looked this up. See, this is part of the gold that's on that other pod. Yeah, of course I can't find it. Whatever. I think there's been 55 coaching changes this offseason.
Hey, you had all your stats.
Yeah. There's been 55 coaching changes this offseason. I would be willing to wager that...
You're in a betting mood tonight.
I am. In those 55 changes, at least every single one of them had one person transfer out of the program afterward.
Okay.
It's
I'll give you one.
It's just part of
it.
the world, So, yeah, I'm right on the 1.5. I think it'll be 1 or 2 guys. I think they'll bring in 3.
I guess, do you think the 4 players that played last year stay?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah,
Xavier Simpson, there's zero chance in hell he's going anywhere. Isaiah Livers wouldn't make any sense to go. If anything, he should be excited. He gets to work with Juwan Howard, for God's sake.
I agree.
I'm getting hot over here, man.
Going through the list. Do you think they make additions to the roster? How many additions to the roster in the next 2 months or whatnot?
I'll say 3.
3 new players?
Yeah.
And Cole?
And Cole.
Is that 1?
I'm in
3.
Let me pull up my chart. I think they're
3 open scholarships.
It seems to me like they're very much back in play for Jalen Wilson.
I believe he said he still wants to take his officials to Kansas and UNC, though.
Yep. And
but he did some eyeball.
If someone like DeAndre Haynes is still on staff, and he comes back and has a good conversation with Juwan Howard, I think there's a very decent chance that, put it this way, I think Michigan's going to fill out its 13 scholarships. Whether that includes Jalen Wilson or not, I don't know. But I think they have 13 scholarship players next year.
I mean, I think they need bodies. So
yeah, that's the thing. You got to look at it from Juwan Howard's perspective. He's going to watch film, and there's nothing on David Julius. There's nothing on Adrian Nunez. There's very little on Colin Castleton.
Or Brandon Johns. Not a lot
Austin
of
Davis.
In there.
Austin Davis is Austin Davis. He's going to be like, I got to get some guys in here.
Hold on. They fill up their scholarships plus his transfers out and still fill up their scholarships? Or are you saying...
I say they have a full boat.
3 more.
Full boat next year.
Oh, a full boat. Either way, even with transfers out.
Either way, yes.
going to be rocking and rolling here over the next month in your world.
There's going to be my world. You're going to be watching
a lot
more
of video
damn
breakdowns
film.
to do. A lot of video breakdowns. That's good. We like that.
We do.
What would you say the roster needs change based on Juwan coming in, or would you be going after, I guess, Michigan was looking very hard after two guard and looking for a wing. Franz Wagner was literally flying across the Atlantic Ocean and showed up for a weekend. Like, do you see that still going anywhere?
I mean, they need shooters.
Yeah.
They need shooters. So, yeah, yes, the roster needs to be upgraded in that category. You need more security at the 2, and you need guys that can make shots. I'm most curious. If we're talking X's and O's roster-wise, I'm most curious of what this means for Xavier Simpson. Xavier Simpson.
In what regard?
In that we've talked endlessly about how, Xavier is such a unique player, and that what Michigan was able to build around his super specific skill set worked. I feel like that system and what John Beilein could do it has taken Xavier to places where I'm not sure other systems might do. Am I wrong?
No, I guess if it's a high ball screen offense, Xavier Simpson will be fine. That's what he does. Mm-hmm. And I don't know.
But as a ball dominant guy,
Juwan Howard's going to sit down. He's going to watch the games next year or from last year, and he's going to. I think I would say you have a hard time watching Michigan play last year and not realizing you have to put the ball in Xavier Simpson's hands, especially when the other options are Eli Brooks or David DeJulius.
I don't disagree, but like under Beilein, Simpson was going to have the ball in his hands 90% of the times. And is it going to still be that way? I don't know. We have no idea. Does Juwan suddenly want to go up tempo? We're going to get up and down. We're going to do this. We're going to. Oh, okay.
That's what I'm curious.
Yeah.
I think the two biggest stats I want to see: tempo and 3-point rate. How many threes they're taking out of their shots. So kind of, or are they going to crash the offense? There's so many questions. You can crash the offensive glass. I still have nightmares of looking at Providence's Ken Pom history and getting worried about the future.
Oh man, I can attest to the people out there. The podcast recorded earlier with Dylan breaking down Ed Cooley's offense was mwah. That was my chef kiss right there. It was good. It was good content with a capital C. All right, what else you got? We're 50 minutes in. We're talking Juwan.
We're 50 minutes in.
Yeah.
All the Michigan State fans have completely unsubscribed to our podcast.
I know. I'm sorry,
over the last 2 weeks. You guys are too stable and it's just business as usual up there.
Very much so.
Let's see. Any other big things you want to hit on? Talk about staff. Talked about we don't have any idea what he's going to run. Talked about the Fab Five. We can talk a little bit about. Go ahead.
I was going to say we haven't talked about Beilein's departure.
No, and we can talk. You wrote a good. You want to take us through your story? You wrote kind of about how everything went down.
Yeah, it was talked to a lot of people within the program and was a little bit. I would say I'm not surprised that John Beilein left Michigan. I was slightly surprised that he got an offer. You're talking about a 66-year-old coach coming off heart surgery, and part of me did think that last year's offer or last year's kind of dance with the Pistons was going to be the. That's what I like to hear. Was it going to be the last legitimate run that he had at possibly getting an NBA job? I am and was a bit surprised how the exit occurred, and that is, basically the staff and the entire team found out via text message, and the idea of Beeline kind of being able to control who knew what and when, whether he knew that tweet was coming from Woj that morning, I don't know, and haven't been able to have that conversation yet. But I would think that he knew that was coming, and there were some people that were just a little bit taken aback inside the walls of Michigan that they found out in that manner, and go for it.
I have a hard time with all the hurt feelings over this, because is there a way, like, are you going to be like a little happier if you had a team meeting and left, right? Like, you're getting dumped one way or another, right? Do you agree with that?
I mean, I think that's a lot easier to say when you're not the one in that situation who's worked in the program.
Yeah, I mean, I get it,
and I wrote this, like, hurt feelings is one thing. Like, everyone I talked to, it was like, we get it, we understand why, blah 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 blah. And the point of that story was not to be like, can you believe John Beeline did it this way? There was no commentary in that story, and I understand the business side of it, and I understand that John Beeline has never been someone that's like, I'm your father figure. Like, I mean, John Beeline is a guy who is. It is a business. It is a business relationship, and that's how it went down.
He also has a lot of experience leaving.
He sure does.
He should be kind of a old vet at some of this stuff, right? I mean, I feel like there's not really a good way to do it. I'm a little surprised, I guess, that he settled on text messages, but I mean, maybe he's just not a fan of those team meetings either.
I was just a little bit surprised that that's how it went down. That's all.
That's fair. Some of the outrage, and
has there been outrage?
People are fired up about this kind of thing, man.
Who's fired up?
You get them all riled up.
Who's riled up?
People are just.
I haven't been on the message boards.
Thoughts about that.
I haven't been on the message board, so if it's on the message boards, I don't know.
Well, the message boards are on you, so it's out there. Oh. Your article is on the message boards, even if you are not.
Okay.
I just don't know that you're going to have. There's not a good way to handle it, right?
True.
There's a way you can. There's a better way to handle it.
There are better ways to do it. There are better ways, yes.
But they're not a perfect solution. You agree with that?
They aren't. There's no great way. There's no way that everyone's going to leave feeling great. I agree with that. But when you preach certain things, as your tenets and philosophies, and then that's how it goes down in the end. You have to know that I'm sure John knows that people are going to be rubbed the wrong way at the end. And this is me. I mean, I'm inserting this. I have not, haven't talked to him. Don't know.
Yeah. Anything else? I mean, people don't want to hear about him leaving. People want to hear about Juwan Howard. It's a new era.
I'm not here to pat heads. Go ahead.
Do you find it? Do you think? Would you have looked longer at like a Lavelle Jordan or like something along the more Beeline path of a potential hire? I guess an internal hire. Do you think that was the wrong play?
I thought you made a great point in the podcast after the initial jolt of news, where you said it's kind of fool's gold to just chase the idea that you can keep something going based on these were the people that were here. That has never ever worked. It's never. That's not. It just doesn't work that way. LaVall Jordan simply. I think LaVall just needed to do more as a head coach to warrant getting this job. And here's the thing: if Juwan Howard fails in 2 or 3 years, you can still hire LaVall Jordan.
Butler's making the Sweet 16, yeah.
You know,
and you can just say, "Whoops!"
All right.
Run that back.
All right. I mean,
do you think? Here's a question for you.
Yeah.
You are the Beeline historian.
Oh God.
How do you think Beeline feels right now about Juwan Howard being hired?
Man, I'm as curious as you are. I mean, in an honest moment, I think he'd be a little bit, maybe a little bit disappointed, maybe a little bit taken aback. And it's mainly because he knows what he walked into 12 years ago. And when it was this smoldering heap, and it was, you need to be clean, you need to be this, you need to be that. And this is not me saying that Juwan Howard will not be clean or this and that, but I mean, the history's history, and he's part of the Fab Five, and it's just the way it is. I think he could be a little bit like, probably made the right decision.
Has he made the right decision, or
I would say, yeah,
has Michigan made the right
Beeline
decision?
telling himself that he made the right decision.
Interesting. Yeah, and it's weird, like, what does Beeline's legacy look like after, 5 years of Juwan Howard? Like,
I mean,
it'll be
I
interesting
think
to
Beeline's
see how it all
legacy
plays out.
Beeline's legacy is Beeline's legacy. Like, this hire is so off the wall. I would say the only way Beeline's hire would be, or Beeline's legacy would be tied to this hire would be if you did hire a LaVall Jordan, or if you did promote from within.
Yeah, that's true.
You kept that whole thing intact. This is it ripped the pages out of the book. Like it's done. This is a different thing.
Yeah.
You know,
that's not what I was trying to say.
Okay.
Do you still feel like there will be I guess, like
are
so
they still
Beeline
naming the
retires in
court
4
after him?
years? Is Beeline coming back to game? Like, where do you think is like the long-term tie there, or is there not one? I'm curious.
I think there will be. I think the Beelines are always going to want to be a part of Ann Arbor and Michigan, and it's still the place that they lived the longest. They were there 12 years.
I believe. Did you say Kathleen's staying in Ann Arbor?
I
thought I read that.
I did not write that.
I thought
I know a little bit about that. I don't know if I'm at liberty to put anything out there, but
I thought I read somewhere that he's planning to rent a place and said she's staying there. I'm not sure if that's accurate or not, but someone wrote that.
I definitely did not write anything about that. But I would guess that I still think like John Beeline's a guy that Michigan might name the court after.
You're big on this court philosophy. You've been pushing it for few pods in a row here.
It's not even like it's just like that's what you do to honor somebody now. Like that's what happens to the greatest person in program. You can't name the arena after them because it's going to always be the Bank of America Dome or whatever. If you're renaming an arena that's currently named, it's not going to be after somebody. It'll be after a bank or a shopping mart or something. But you name courts and you build statues, and I think something like that will happen for John Beilein still. Do you?
I think so. I don't know that he cares right now.
Not right now.
I don't know that.
Certainly not right now. I can tell you right now.
It's certainly a very
bunker worried about the NBA.
I don't think it's just not the kind of thing that I think he cares about, right? Like he would never be the kind of coach that does like a victory lap in his last year. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like announces he's going to retire and gets like an honorary chair at every game or something. You know what I mean?
Was never going to end that way.
That's just not right. I mean, honestly, like coaching 3 average years or 4 average years at the Cavs is like kind of the perfect way for him to go out and like practicing bounce passes in his last practice and just walking away. Like that's very fitting and on brand for him. But
with $15 million or whatever in those 3 years. It's a nice parachute.
a nice way to go out. Although the questions in the presser were a little tough about the fact that Dan Gilbert never allows anyone to coach through their contract. That was a interesting listen. Fun times ahead for him there.
I'd be more worried about Dan Gilbert's ability to pronounce Jesuit college names. Couldn't even say Canisius.
Really hits close to home.
It did. I bet it came a little close to home with John Beeline up there. Can't pronounce
Sounded like
Canisius.
he was the one correcting it.
Woof. Woof. Brutal. Okay. Anything else? Any grand predictions for?
I think
Do we want
Michigan's
to talk
a
about the
tournament
money?
team this year.
Did we talk about Juwan's money?
We talked a little bit. I think I'm worried my man Juwan Howard's not going to be able to afford a Hoops subscription on that salary.
So $2 million, it'll escalate up to 2.5. I don't even
Have
remember
you looked
what we said.
where that ranks in the
It's way toward the bottom.
Big Ten? I'm curious what the assistant pool is. They got a big raise last year, which put Michigan up competitively.
I think it will
But,
stay in that range, and I think it will be what they need to be. If they're going to hire an ex-head coach who they have to pay $500,000 to, I think they will have the leeway to do that.
All right, are you ready for the coaches making less than 2.5? So wait, is it 2.5 or 2?
It's starting at 2.
The release, so it's starting at 2. The coaches making less than 2 in the Big Ten.
In the Big Ten, coaches making less than 2. Man, oh wait, can I try to guess?
You can guess.
Greg Gard.
Nope, 2.4.
Woo. Patrick.
Patrick.
Chambers.
Oh.
Jesus. What kind of Big Ten
He's
podcast
not
is this?
on here. Oh, no, he's not listed. That's sorry. He wasn't on the...
What's he making, the state minimum?
It's just a line. Don't they have to declare... Penn State's not private,
It's not a private school, no. I think there's some goofy bullshit rules in the state of Pennsylvania about you not having to... They can somehow get away with FOIA law violations.
He's just making the double line.
I don't know what the hell that means. Wait, okay, so who is it? It's nobody then.
Chris Collins at 1.5 and Steve Peichel at 1.6.
I should have thought of Peichel. Collins surprises me.
Richard
I don't even know why.
Pitino is 2.2.
I don't even know why Collins' salary would be public. It's a private school.
Well, maybe it's like a fake number. Steve Peichel has a $12.7 million buyout.
Where are we getting this information from?
USA Today?
Yeah, that's
salary chart?
Yeah, that shit's usually wrong. What's it say for Beeline on that thing?
Something. 3.8.
Okay, that's right. All right. What else? We're on
Fran
PNC.
2.3.
2.3 for Fran. Okay.
Miles 2.4. Miles is cashing some kind of check.
What would you think of Miles as the associate guy?
I think he'd probably have to take a pay cut, right? I mean, I don't think he's getting a job for it. He's going to sit out, and usually when you get
I think he waits for
bought out
job.
of your deal, you can't really get a...
I only brought it up because it was all up in my mentions.
Not Tim Miles. Great podcast on Inside the Hall with Tim Miles today. He doesn't sound like a guy trying to go be Juwan Howard's associate head coach. I'll tell you that much.
Wow.
He's sitting back watching Billions.
I've been lucky. I've been lucky to talk to Tim a couple times. It's usually about golf, and it's pretty awesome. I would guess that the assistant, the top assistant guy, whatever, is some retired or fired journeyman who's been at a million schools, or
Steve Fisher.
Someone. now we're cooking. Oh shit. Or someone who was kind of at that mid-major level at like 1 or 2 stops, and that's it. There's 2 guys in Philly. Fran Dunphy, Phil Martelli.
You'd have all the program scoops if that happens.
I doubt it.
So you think, like, do you see it being someone getting like big time, like $500,000 for that position, or like a smaller role?
If you hire someone legit who was a head coach for 20 years, you're gonna have to pay them $400,000. That's just the way it is. So yeah, I think that pool is going to be there.
So how would you build your staff? Let's hear it.
Associate head coach, 1 guy from the current staff.
Who's your guy? I'm going Saudi.
I don't know. That's a loaded question. The third. I'm torn on the third, and I'll tell you why. It's because, like, do you go all in on someone who can recruit, or is Juwan Howard, like, is he the needle when it comes to recruiting? You know? Or do you need somebody that's, like, plugged into the summer stuff and knows all the shoe stuff and can guide him through all of that? He's been an NBA coach. What the hell does he know about how all of that works? I think you make a real case that the third hire should probably be someone who's just totally plugged in to all of that crap.
Someone who has been a college head or a college assistant coach, or someone who is just like a straight up grassroots guy.
Yeah, if you got to go grassroots guy, you go grassroots guy. I don't know how that would really look for Michigan, but
can you recruit Chicago without cheating?
No.
Can you recruit the Mac Irvin Fire without cheating? Nope. That's your answer? I mean, that's
that's the reputation. You know that. I mean, can you get a couple kids out of Chicago? Yeah. Did Michigan pay Charles Matthews? I don't think so.
They also didn't sign him out of high school.
It's a fair point.
I guess it helps to have your kid play for Mac Irvin Fire. Yeah, so, I mean, he does have connections in that regard. It'll just be really interesting where Michigan focuses their efforts, I guess, and then how it pays off, right?
Right.
I agree that you need a recruiter. Like, you can be in it and you can go to your kids' games and be around it. Mm-hmm. And know the space, right. But you can't call up the guy who's going to deliver you a player, right? Like, that's how it works, and you need to have those connections.
When I say, like, I don't know if Juwan himself is the needle, like, I mean, this ain't Nebraska. This ain't Nebraska or another kind of middling place like that where, like, you need to go work your ass off on the recruiting trail. I mean, Juwan Howard's a Nike guy to the bone. It's Michigan. There's a lot going on. Like, this could be the kind of scenario where the recruits come to Michigan a little bit. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you don't have to do the work.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that's not out of the question.
I see what you're.
But you can also go up with that bullshit
that
recruiting coordinator role too, and get someone who maybe can do that, right?
Yeah, that's like the new.
That's a thing.
Trend on a lot of staffs, without a doubt.
Yep. So maybe you do it that way.
Yeah, it'll be interesting how. Could work. I mean, I'm just like thinking about covering recruiting has just kind of transformed itself in about a week and a half.
I wish you the best of luck in that. I'll be at Pebble Beach, following my boy Brooks, See what's going on. Are you drinking a blue light over there? Are we both drinking a blue light?
No, I'm drinking a Scorpion Bowl IPA.
Oh, you're so fancy. Jesus. With your trips
been a
to
long
Italy and your high-end IPAs.
I was in
Spain.
France and Spain, not Italy.
Whatever. It's all the whatever over there. All right. Are we done? Are we going to keep going?
This podcast is going off the rails. I think we're good.
I think we're good. I'm sure we'll actually... And the good thing for the pod is that this actually gives us reasons to rip through more of these things this summer. There's going to be stuff to talk about.
There's going to be a whole lot to talk about.
Yeah, right. So,
we won't really know what we're talking about, but we can react to small things and see where we're going here.
And I will, and I promise before the next one, I'll call the folks over at Michigan State and get some stuff to talk about, so that we're not just totally Michigan centric. But I think everyone can agree. All the Michigan State fans can agree this had to be kind of what it was, right?
Yep. And
come on, people.
Like, are you going to do the poll, the Jeff Goodman poll, who Michigan State would least like Michigan to hire?
No, I'm not going to do that.
Did you see this? That's stupid. It's good.
Jeff's my boy, but I wouldn't be surprised if it was a stupid poll. So that's all right. All right, you good?
We're good.
All right,
Let's wrap this up. Everyone,
subscribe. Listen, and here, this is important though. Subscribe to umhoops.com. Dylan's going to be putting awesome stuff out there, I'm sure, breaking down. You already have stuff on there, right, video-wise, of what the Heat did with Howard. Why don't you tell the folks about that?
Yeah, we have a story about. We have a lot of stories about Juwan. We don't have a lot of video yet, but we'll have some stuff up there. Maybe even grind some Juwan Howard Summer League film. We'll have a lot coming up. Talk about recruiting. Talk about all sorts of things.
Love it. And then over here, I have a story up with some background information on the hire from Michigan's end of things. Some good source stuff in there, I hope. And hoping to report out a little bit more on how the hire went down. We'll see. First things first, I got to go to Philly this weekend to see my family for the first time in a long time. So I want to bang that out and then get back over here and do some hoops. Going to cover the Memorial down in Ohio next week. Moving and shaking. I mean, we might have a pod. Should we have a pod right off of Juwan's press conference? We should.
Let's do it. We'll do it next Thursday?
We'll do a pod next Thursday before Dylan and I go to the bar or at the bar.
After.
Or after. I like it. Perfect. All right. So, a lot to look forward to for everyone. Subscribe to the Hoops. Subscribe to The Athletic. Like the pod. Rate the pod. Share the pod. We really appreciate all of you. Be sure to tip your bartenders and your servers. Good night.